The Dome of the Rock may not exist. The holy site will soon be destroyed and ready for new changes. The Dome of the Rock is storing too many terrible secrets of humanity. It is not only a sacred site for Muslims, but also a place that has always attracted the whole world's attention. Along with the development of humanity, secrets are gradually being revealed, shocking the whole world. Not only that, the Stone Dome is becoming a place for believers to see the fulfillment of prophecies. Recently, a shocking discovery was recorded, making viewers unable to calm down when they saw it. What is it? Are you curious? Let's explore this in today's video. Without wasting any time, let's begin. In continuation of the signs surrounding the Muslim holy site, the Dome of the Rock, videos of new appearances in the sky are stirring netizens. A shining cross was witnessed above the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, sparking speculation and prayers for peace. A luminous cross was seen above the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, sparking debate about its significance. Unusual sightings and discoveries near the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem have sparked global attention and speculation about the end of times, leading to tensions and conflict between different religious groups. The Israeli government's potential targeting of the Dome of the Rock has caused fear among Muslims, leading to restrictions on Jewish visitors and a violent conflict with Israeli police at the holy site. The Israeli government's potential targeting of the Dome of the Rock has caused fear among Muslims, leading to restrictions on Jewish visitors to prevent escalation of tensions. Palestinians caused tension by hiding their faces and starting a conflict at the Dome of the Rock, leading to a violent situation with the Israeli police and highlighting the ongoing struggle for control of the holy place. The Dome of the Rock, an octagonal structure on an elevated platform in the middle of the Temple Mount area in Jerusalem. It is revered by most Muslims as the spot from which the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Since its construction, the dome has been for Muslims more than a mere structure. It stands as a symbol of the triumph of Islam, and more importantly, is a reminder of humanity's unique connections to God. Through the many sacred events that unfolded on that spot since the time of creation over the centuries, Muslims have cherished the dome for its many religious symbolisms, which alongside the religious symbolisms of other sites on the Temple Mount and the city of Jerusalem, the dome with its location and inscription also provides some of the earliest dated evidence of the emergence of Islam and how early Muslims shaped their religious identity internally, as well as vis-a-vis their monotheist cousins, the Jews and Christians. A glorious mystery. One of the most iconic images of the Middle East is undoubtedly the Dome of the Rock shimmering in the setting sun of Jerusalem. Sitting atop the Haram al-Sharif, the highest point in Old Jerusalem, the Dome of the Rock's golden-colored dome and Turkish fanes tiles dominate the cityscape of Old Jerusalem. And in the 7th century served as a testament to the power of the new faith of Islam. The Dome of the Rock is one of the earliest surviving buildings from the Islamic world. This remarkable building is not a mosque, as is commonly assumed, and scholars still debate its original function and meaning. Between the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632 and 691, when the Dome of the Rock was completed, there was intermittent warfare in Arabia and the Holy Land around Jerusalem. The first Arab armies who emerged from the Arabian Peninsula were focused on conquering and establishing an empire, not building. Thus, the Dome of the Rock was one of the first Islamic buildings ever constructed. The dome is located on the Haram al-Sharif, an enormous open-air platform that now houses the Al-Aqsa Mosque, madrasas, and several other religious buildings. Few places are as holy for Christians, Jews, and Muslims as the Haram al-Sharif. It is the Temple Mount, the site of the Jewish Second Temple, which the Roman Emperor Titus destroyed in 70 CE while subduing the Jewish revolt. A Roman temple was later built on the site. The Temple Mount was abandoned in late antiquity. At the center of the Dome of the Rock sits a large rock which is believed to be the location where Abraham was prepared to sacrifice his life. His beloved son, Isaac. Today, Muslims believe that the rock commemorates the night journey of Muhammad. One night, the angel Gabriel came to Muhammad while he slept near the Kaaba in Mecca and took him to Al-Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem. From the rock, Muhammad journeyed to heaven, where he met other prophets such as Moses and Christ, witnessed paradise and hell, and finally saw God enthroned and circumambulated by angels, is enclosed by two ambulatories and an octagonal exterior wall. The central colonnade was composed of 4 piers and 12 columns, supporting a rounded drum that transitions into the 2-layered dome more than 20 meters in diameter. The colonnades are clad in marble on their lower registers, and their upper registers are adorned with exceptional mosaics. The ethereal interior atmosphere is a result of light that pours in from grilled windows located in the drum and exterior walls. Golden mosaics depicting jewels shimmer in this glittering light. Byzantine and Sasanian crowns in the midst of vegetal motifs are also visible. The Byzantine Empire stood to the north and to the west of the new Islamic Empire until 1453, when its capital, Constantinople, fell to the Ottoman Turks. To the east, the old Sasanian Empire of Persia imploded under pressure from the Arabs, but nevertheless provided winged crown motifs that can be found in the Dome of the Rock. Wall and ceiling mosaics became very popular in late antiquity and adorned many Byzantine churches, including San Vital in Ravenna and Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. Thus, the use of mosaics reflects an artistic tie to the world of late antiquity. Late antiquity is a period from about 300 when the classical world dissolved, and the medieval period emerged. The mosaics in the Dome of the Rock contain no human figures or animals. While Islam does not prohibit the use of figurative art per se, it seems that in religious buildings this prescription was upheld. Instead, we see vegetative scrolls and motifs, as well as vessels and winged crowns which were worn by Sasanian kings. Thus, the iconography of the Dome of the Rock also includes the other major pre-Islamic civilization of the region, the Mesopotamia, the Sasanian Empire, which the Arab armies had defeated. The building enclosing the rock also seems to take its form from the imperial mausolea of Roman emperors such as Augustus or Hadrian. Its circular form and dome also reference the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The circular Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem was built to enclose the tomb of Christ. The Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the Dome of the Rock have domes that are almost identical in size. This suggests that the elevated position of the Dome of the Rock and the comparable size of its dome was a way that Muslims in the late 8th century proclaimed the superiority of their newly formed faith over Christians. The Dome of the Rock also contains an inscription, 240 meters long, that includes some of the earliest surviving examples of verses from the Qur'an and in an architectural context or otherwise. The Bismillah, the phrase that starts each verse of the Quran, and the Shahada, the Islamic confession of faith, which states that there is only one God and Muhammad is his prophet, are also included in the inscription. The inscription also refers to Mary and Christ and proclaims that Christ was not divine, but a prophet. Thus, the inscription also proclaims some of the core values of the newly formed religion of Islam. Below the rock is a small chamber whose purpose is not fully understood even to this day. For those who are fortunate enough to be able to enter the Dome of the Rock, the experience is moving regardless of one's faith. Another conflict between Palestinians and Jews involuntarily brings to mind the prophecies about the restoration of the Third Temple and about the end times of this world. Another military conflict between Jews and Palestinians continues in Israel. There are also clashes between representatives of the conflicting parties around the world where supporters of the warring parties live. Each of them proves their case, but we are primarily interested in what consequences this conflict can have for Christians and whether it has anything to do with prophecies about the end of the world. The Arab-Israeli conflict would have been resolved a long time ago to the complete mutual satisfaction of all parties if these parties had been guided only by political, economic, financial, or other everyday interests. But the main interest of the parties to this conflict is religious. The Jews wanted to build the Third Temple on the spot, where the first and the second temples were built, and of which only one Wailing Wall remained. But the Arabs cannot allow them to do this, since today the third biggest shrine of the Muslim world, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, as well as the Dome of the Rock, stands on this site. The Dome of the Rock is a Muslim sanctuary built over the foundation stone, the site where the Holy of Holies of the Jerusalem Temple was located. It is for these shrines that the war between Jews and Muslims is going on, which cannot be stopped by any negotiations or any diplomatic efforts. It can only be completed by the final military victory of one of the parties. While the Israeli state at the official level does not raise the issue of building the third temple, this topic is actively promoted at the level of public organizations. They are, for example, zealots of the Temple Mount or movement for the construction of the temple. There is also the Temple Institute, whose staff are working to recreate the utensils and clothing of the priests needed for temple service. They are also looking for the descendants of the ancient Cohens and Levites who could in the future serve in the third temple, if it is built. A lot of rabbis believe that nothing can free the Jewish people from the responsibility of building the temple. Opinions are divided only in detail. Should the Jews build the third temple before the coming of the Mashiach? Or will this Mashiach himself build the temple when he comes to earth? Supporters of the latter point of view claim that the construction of the temple by the Mashiach will be proof of his messiahship. In any case, with each new exacerbation of the Arab-Israeli conflict, talks about the prospects for the construction of the third temple are resumed with renewed vigor. All sorts of analysts are into making assumptions about whether or not it will be built, and if so, when. In 2000, the well-known Soviet and Russian diplomat, president of the Society for Friendship and Business Cooperation with Arab Countries, Vyacheslav Mutuzov, said that at the talks between U.S. President Bill Clinton, Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, and Palestinian Authority leader Yasser Arafat at Camp David, Arafat was asked to decide ultimately the Palestinian question in the most beneficial way for the Palestinians. In return, Arafat was only required to agree to the following actions: to bring a powerful, reinforced concrete foundation to under the Muslim shrines on the Temple Mount and raise them to a certain height from the ground. This would make it possible to build the third temple without destroying the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock. In which temple will the Antichrist reign? It is widely believed in Christianity that the restoration of the Jerusalem temple is one of the signs of the coming of the Antichrist, since it is in this temple that he must reign. Supporters of this opinion believe that this is indicated by the words of the Apostle Paul. Let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first. And the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Do these words imply the Jerusalem temple or something else? Many Holy Fathers believe that the Holy Apostle Paul had in mind precisely the Jerusalem temple. He is destined to sit in the church of God. What church? In the ruined temple of the Jews rather than the one we are now in. Why do we say this? Let no one think of us that we are flattering ourselves. If he comes to the Jews under the name of Christ and wants the Jews to worship him, then in order to deceive them more, he will take special care of the temple, showing them that he, being from the dynasty of David, wants to create the temple built by Solomon. It is widely believed in Christianity that the restoration of the Jerusalem temple is one of the signs of the coming of the Antichrist, since he must reign in this temple exactly. But this is not the only point of view. For example, the monk Ephraim, the Syrian, says that here is meant the Church of Christ, that is, Orthodox Church. In this way, he will appear and ascend into the temple of God to sit inside and in the Church of God. He will contempt and reject all cults in order to captivate the church. That is why he will ascend into the very temple of God in order to sit down and show himself as if he were God. How will he show that he is a true God? In addition to the glory and honor he will be vested with, he will show this even more through the enmity against heretical sects. Since he will not incline to any heresy then, thanks to his feigned love for the children of the church, he will make them think that he loves them as true children of the church. And he will come to their temple and sit down, as in the temple of truth, to show that he is God. There is no way to determine which temple will be the seat of the Antichrist, but it is not known in which temple of God he will sit, on the ruins of the temple that was built by King Solomon, or in a church. For the apostle would not call the temple of some idol or demon a temple of God. Most of the Holy Fathers admitted that the Antichrist could sit both in the Jerusalem temple and in Christian churches. He will not lead to idolatry, but will be an antagonist, reject all gods and command everyone to worship himself instead of God. And he will sit in the temple of God, not only in Jerusalem, but everywhere in churches. In view of the current exacerbation of the Arab-Israeli conflict, the Greek news agency Vimei Orthodoxias posted on its website a quote from the recently canonized Venerable Paisios, the Holy Mountain. The destruction of the Omar Mosque in Jerusalem will be a sign that the fulfillment of the prophecies is approaching. It will be destroyed to rebuild the Temple of Solomon, which is said to have been in its place. In the rebuilt temple, the Zionists will eventually proclaim the Antichrist. I heard that the Jews were already preparing for the construction of the Temple of Solomon. Everything is slowly but surely moving towards the fact that the third temple will nevertheless be built, despite the resistance of the entire Muslim world. These words are confirmed by the entire course of developments in the Middle East, starting with the restoration of Israel as a state in 1948. Indeed, everything is slowly but surely moving towards the fact that the third temple will nevertheless be built, despite the resistance of the entire Muslim world. However, given that the Holy Fathers do not have full agreement on this issue, one cannot totally rely on the point of view of the monk Paisios and other fathers who expressed a similar opinion, since this may lurk a serious danger. It consists in the fact that while we wait for the restoration of the Jerusalem temple and believe that without this the Antichrist will not come to earth, he may well come and sit in a completely different place. In other words, we can simply miss it. Therefore, it is necessary to pay attention not only to the temple in which the Antichrist will sit, but also to the whole complex of prophecies associated with the coming of the end times. And most importantly, it should be remembered that the Apostle Paul, who wrote to the Thessalonians that the Antichrist would sit in the temple of God like God, also wrote that every Christian is the temple of God. Or do you not know that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own? And whether or not to let the Antichrist into this temple depends only on each of us. What can the exacerbation lead to? To answer this question, it is necessary to look at what all the previous Arab-Israeli conflicts led to, or rather, the periodic exacerbations of one large conflict between Israel and the entire Muslim world since 1948, when the UN decision in Palestine was to recreate the Jewish state, which ended its existence almost 2,000 years ago. Historians count 6 exacerbations of the Arab-Israeli conflict, which are designated by the term war, and several more by the term military operation. In all of them, Israel was opposed by opponents who were many times superior to the Jewish state in manpower and military equipment. But in all of them, Israel emerged victorious, time after time expanding its territory of influence and strengthening its position both in the Middle East and in the world as a whole. By and large, it is impossible to explain this by anything other than the providence of God, despite repeated attempts to do it. But let's not forget that the providence of God can be manifested both in the will of God and in letting something bad happen. The current aggravation of the conflict between Israel and Palestine is also not capable of leading the Palestinians to defend their interests. Most likely, the IDF will inflict such damage on Hamas and the Palestinians as a whole that will force them to abandon hostile actions against Israel for a while, and Israel, in turn, will secure the eviction of Palestinians from their homes in the old city of Jerusalem to continue its expansion. Thank you so much for watching. That's all about today's video. If you like this video, please give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to watch the latest videos from our channel. I hope to see you in the next videos. Goodbye.